Bitcoin is a mature asset, or it's becoming a mature asset. It's becoming mainstream. It's not really bunk or underground anymore. And it's being embraced by TradFi and Wall Street, and they're embracing it with open arms, and they're saying, hey guys, come here, we'll be your friend, we'll accept you. And I think that to Bitcoiners is it catches a lot of them off guard, man. But that's what I'm seeing, right? Now that doesn't mean that we still can't have an amazing end of the year where we hit 150 or 200,000, right? But I was around in 2017 where we went from $1,000 in January to $20,000 in December. That's a 20x, right? Now we're just kind of like, hey, can I have a 2x? That would be great. That would be wonderful. So it is a very large asset. And there are different differences of opinion on this. Like Adam Back, Bitcoin OG, he's talking about an S curve. He's saying like, look, man, we're gonna hit an S curve, and we're gonna have these crazy parabolas, and the diminishing return theory is going to go out the window. But I just don't see it. Like I see this kind of amazing return. If you look at the Michael Saylor presentation, it was like, I think it started at 50% CAGR, and then it starts to go down over like a decade or so, and then it like kind of stabilizes around that 20 to 21% number, which is like fantastic, absolutely incredible. Like that beats everything. But that kind of has to change your mindset a little bit. Like it's the days of like, just 10x in a year might be over. And that's something that Bitcoiners, I think, have to internalize.
It's super interesting because I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, I talked with Giovanni from the Power Law. I just came back from Bitcoin Prague, where Michael Saylor gave the presentation of 21 million in 21 years, which is, I think, a 28 point something, 29 CAGR. And then in 21 years, Bitcoin will grow at 21%. Really interesting how he put it together, that he got the 21 years, the 21 so many times in there. And we have this graduate, and suddenly that S-curve, so many different kind of models of trying to make sense of something we maybe cannot make sense because it's digital scarcity, and we basically don't even have something to compare it really to. But that's been really interesting. The one thing that I'm always wondering about with those models is, what if we have more inflation? It seems like the US dollar is not past 50 years lost, I don't know, like 90, 95, whatever the number is of purchasing power, next 20 years. I'm not sure how good the US dollar even will keep up. The other currencies, of course, like even worse than that. How do you look at those models, and then also calculating and factoring in just the inflation and the M2 money supply that's kind of growing in that?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. So let's break it down a little bit, right? So, yeah, I mean, the Lynn Alden meme of "Nothing Stops This Train." Larry Lepard wrote a book called The Big Print, which I'm sure you've talked to him about. James Lavish, continues to talk about the debt spiral, and even Jerome Powell, like the chairman of the Federal Reserve in the United States, talks about how the United States is on an unsustainable fiscal trajectory. So, yeah, I mean, like, they're going to have to print money. The U.S. government spends roughly, I think it's like $2 trillion more every single year than it collects in tax revenue. And that is the only way they're able to fund that is through money printing or currency debasement. So, and that's just going to balloon. That's not going to stop. I mean, you saw Elon go in there with Doge, and this is one of the smartest man. I know a lot of Bitcoiners don't like Elon, but like, let's just be real. Like, this is one of the smartest men in the world, wealthiest men in the world. Invented, basically the electric car, self-driving car, self-landing rockets. He's a hell of an entrepreneur, and he goes in there and I think he's able to make $150 billion of cuts. Then he starts to get demoralized because Republicans, like the party that he got into power, that he put hundreds of millions of dollars getting elected, aren't supporting his tax cuts, his cuts in the first place. And that's when I came to the realization. In fact, I was saying it for about 6 months or so, Robin. I was saying like Elon is going to have a very bad experience, because you have to understand that whether you're a Democrat or Republican, so the left and the right in the United States, right? There's only two parties. There's a two-party system in the US. Um, they both benefit from this printer, right? So their voters have been accustomed to the benefits of the printer, even though it's hurting them. They don't realize it, right? Like, they don't realize that college ain't free, or welfare ain't free. You're paying for it, but it's kind of like this insidious tax where people don't realize they're paying for it because it's currency debasement. So to kind of weave it back in, yeah, I mean, I think all fiat currencies are going to zero. I think everything compared to Bitcoin is going to zero. And it's just a question of at what rate it will go to zero. Now, out of the basket of all fiat currencies, I think the US dollar is one of the strongest. The Swiss is a strong one as well. But again, that doesn't mean they're strong. It means they're terrible. They're horrific. But if you are in Argentina or Venezuela and you're dealing with double-digit inflation, you look at the dollar, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that's why stablecoins are so popular, by the way. And that's why they were so happy to pass the so-called Genius Act, the Stablecoin Act in the United States. The reason they were so happy to pass this is because it essentially allows the fiat games to continue. Because essentially, for anyone who's not familiar with how this works, the Treasury issues these bonds to the open market. And what is supposed to happen is you have sovereign wealth funds, you have countries buying these bonds. But what tends to happen is no one has the money or the confidence to buy these bonds. So what ends up happening is that the Federal Reserve buys the bonds themselves, and that is the money printing mechanism, right? So it on paper it's kosher. What they're doing is kosher, but if you break it down, you're like, the Fed's just buying the bonds from the Treasury themselves. It's like the left pocket is putting in the right pocket. They're buying it from themselves, right? And then that's how they justify printing more money. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I think the US dollar is going to continue to do well in the grand scheme of things because of the proliferation of stable coins. I think the inflation rate is never going to go back to 2% as much as they want it to be. I think we're being lied to about the actual inflation rate. They keep changing the CPI numbers. So they'll change the adjustments so that it makes them look good. But I don't think it's 3%. I don't think it's 2%. That's a lie. Just look at the price of real estate. I live in South Florida. Real estate doubled in 6 months to a year because of all the money printing that happened during the pandemic, right? Is it because housing prices doubled? No, housing prices didn't double. It was inflation. You saw inflation through the housing market, but you didn't see inflation through consumer goods, but you saw inflation through the housing market. You saw inflation through equities. You saw inflation through hard assets. That's where the inflation happened. It didn't happen in consumer goods. Maybe it didn't happen in food as much. It happened in energy, but it happened. The money printing caused inflation, right? And I think our job as Bitcoiners is to kind of really wake people up to this reality where if you switch to a Bitcoin standard, you don't like you're not experiencing that type of inflation. In fact, you're already living in a deflationary world, which is the way that the free market should actually operate. And I know, Robin, you've talked to Jeff Booth, like he makes this case extremely well, right? Where he's basically saying the natural order of the free market is deflationary, and that's how we should be able how we should be seeing things. And the only thing that you will be able to see this deflationary market happening as if you're saving in Bitcoin and you're earning in Bitcoin. Because if you're saving and earning in Bitcoin, everything around you will get cheaper. But I think that's the natural order of things. So I don't know if that was a very long-ended question, long-ended answer to your question. But yeah, man, I think the CPI numbers are BS. I think the US dollar is going to stay around for a while. But I think that if you want to escape all that political stupid money, just buy Bitcoin and put it in self custody.
I also love the one tweet of Donald Trump and Elizabeth Warren, where they both basically said the literally only thing that we agree on is that we had to get rid of the debt ceiling. Basically, the only thing that red and blue is agreeing on, hey, let's print more money. That's the only thing that you're like, let's do that. That seems to be good. No matter what you vote on, that's the thing that they both want to do. And I think that's maybe Elon Musk wanted to change that, and he ran he ran against the wall maybe there.
Yeah, I agree. You know, again, like it's a little bit of a disappointment that he had to experience the pushback that he did, and but again, it exposed the system itself, and it's hilarious that like our politicians at this point are just like, you know what, like we like printing money, fugazi, like it's printing money for everyone. You want print money, but I mean that is like the natural evolution of this system, because the system is if you're a politician and you have the godlike power, because that's what it is, of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for, and you use that power to fund a war, buy votes, promise people hope. Like, think about it. Like, politicians go up, and remember when the pandemic happened? Like I remember, like when Trump was in office, he sent everyone a stimulus check. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's nuts. No one talks about like the inflationary pressures of that, but like, we're at the point in the movie where like the government is basically saying, all right, everybody, here's free money. Here's $1,600. It's funny too, because if you put that money into Bitcoin, like today it would be worth like 14,000, which is crazy. So yeah, man, I mean, look, nothing stops this train. They're gonna keep doing it. And get on a lifeboat, get on a lifeboat, get on Bitcoin.
One thing that you mentioned, which was interesting, was the stable coins. It's for me almost like a Blu-ray of the Blu-ray moment of fiat money, where you improve the technology, but you really don't fix any problems. And then there's this digital thing coming, which is digital music, digital movies. In that comparison, Bitcoin, which is just like far superior than any CD or Blu-ray or whatever you want to call it. Do you see that stable coin kind of the final life, or the last straw that fiat has to cling on to the power for, I don't know, a few more decades?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I think they're using stablecoins uh, as a way to kind of extend the the fiat system. So like, what do I mean by that? So like, there right now, stable coins are, and this is a reality that a lot of Bitcoiners don't understand and don't appreciate. But as Bitcoiners, we should be free market maximalists. So that means that we should like take signals from the free market, not from our feelings. Um, the free market is telling me that there is mass scale stablecoin adoption in the developing world. It is viral, right? Like people are adopting Tether, like the likes of which has never been seen before. Like the adoption rate is crazy. So, what happens if you are a US politician? All of a sudden, you see stablecoins as a way to propagate the US dollar worldwide. And that includes circumventing local national currencies. So if you're in Argentina and you have a choice between a US dollar in the digital form, which is Tether or USDC, or the local currency, the peso or whatever, what are you going to choose? You're going to choose the dollar, right? So as more and more in the world, as more and more of the world chooses the dollar, that actually makes the dollar stronger, and it allows them to propagate the scam. It allows them to continue this, oh, we could just print into forever. And a little known fact too is that Tether, and I'm actually a big fan of the Tether guys because they're actually Bitcoiners. And they actually even admit this too. So it's kind of funny. But they're one of the biggest treasury buyers in the world. I mean, remember how I was saying earlier, like no one wants to buy the treasuries and it's the Fed that ends up buying the treasuries? Well, Tether is one of the biggest buyers in the first place, right? I think they're in the top 10. It's absolutely crazy. It's absurd, right? So I think though, fundamentally at the end, what I think is going to happen is that it's going to function as a Trojan horse to Bitcoin. And the reason I say that is because it gives people exposure to like digital dollars, digital wallets, better said. And once people are on dollars, then they'll start to see the inflation rate on dollars too, right? Like once their economies fully dollarize, they're going to start feeling inflation just like we do in the West, right? On other currencies. The difference is that they're going from, let's say, the Bolivar or the peso that is horrific. It's terrible. It's double digit inflation to the dollar. So for them, it's like, oh my God, like I found like this thing is gold. This thing is amazing. This thing is fantastic. Like I found the answer to money. But as let's say 50-60% of the population adopts, the digital dollar, the Tether, they're going to realize the scam too. And they're going to be like, oh, you know what? This Bitcoin thing looks a little bit better than this digital dollar, right? So yeah, I think it's a Trojan horse. I think it's extending kind of like the life of the fiat system. And then you have the other alternative, which is where Europe is going down this path of the central bank digital currency, which is, I think, it's just not working already, right? But it's not it's not stopping them. They still think that somehow they're going to be able to convince people to use it or force people to use it. Robin, I was actually like seeing news the other day where like people are getting like, it went viral, but basically some guy went to a bank and was like, hey, I need 2,500 pounds to buy a motorbike for my kid. And the bank was like, no, like you need to explain to me like why. And then like I'm like just like thinking about that for a second. I'm like, isn't that his money? Like why are they asking him what he should do with his money? So they're like in the process of demonizing cash. And the reason that they're trying to do this is because, and then I think in Canada too, it's now illegal for you to make a $10,000 cash transaction, right? And the reason they're doing that is because they want everyone on this kind of digital system of which they can control. And that digital system inevitably becomes the CBDC, which is linked to your digital ID. And then they can continue this kind of wealth extraction through currency debasement. And that's why they hate Bitcoin. Like fundamentally, like if you want to know why they really dislike Bitcoin, and to use Christine Lagarde's own words, is because it provides an escape valve and it provides a mirror, right? Like every block that Bitcoin continues to exist, it proves that that money can exist without inflation. and it proves that money can exist without government, right? And that scares the living daylights out of them. Like, they can't handle that. Like, they're like, no. If people find out about this, like, we're screwed, because this is how they make money. This is how they fund themselves. This is their source of power, right? So anyways, that's my take.
It's super interesting. And I actually looked it up once. In Austria, you can still pay up until 10K in euro in cash. But the one detail is, if you do it above 3,000 euros, the merchant or the guy that sells you the stuff and that you give them the money to has to KYC you starting from 3,000 euros. So basically, you have to go through a KYC process with the merchant just to buy something, because it's cash and it's above 3,000 euros, which is ridiculous, because it's like just money. Like, what's the difference between 3,000 and 4,000? And it's super interesting when we think about also the thing that you said with US dollar and with exchanging it. If there's only the US dollar, what are we changing? Because I see now people like Argentine peso, like the Turkish lira. And when you see the people, like, what are they doing? They are mostly switching to the USDD. They're usually trying to get a better fiat currency. When you talk with people from Egypt, they're like, oh, I want to have the euro, I want to have the US dollar, because their own local currency is so bad. So they have kind of a safe haven in a better fiat currency. But what if the best fiat currency is the only fiat currency, and it's also having double-digit inflation, and then you have that stable coin US dollar and in a digital wallet, and then you also have in the same wallet the possibility of holding Bitcoin, of holding something actually that is digital scarce. You're like, oh, this Bitcoin thing is going up and this US dollar thing is going down. So I like the perspective of stable coins, and even even digital currencies in general, maybe being a Trojan horse for Bitcoin, because it gets people used to digital money, which in general is bad, except if it's Bitcoin. So it could turn out to be really good for Bitcoin. And with cash, it's interesting, because I have a lot of people, like some people in the comments that say, oh, like Bitcoin is digital, it's the same thing as CBDCs, which obviously then you haven't understood what Bitcoin really is. But they are always going to like, oh, cash is the real liberty, that's freedom. To some extent, yes, but it's still like deflating away. But I think if you fight for cash, it's an uphill battle. I really don't think we can save cash, because if you see the trending numbers, even what consumers prefer, like if you just think about from first principles, do you really want to get the coins out and the bills, and like you're losing it, they're laying around your house, or just like with your phone double tap and you have an Apple thing going on. The same with Bitcoin. It's like very easy to pay, like Lightning wallet. It's just like scan it, press it, it's done. It's super easy and nice. People will get rid of cash. Like I think it's just a matter of time. Even if you don't want it, and I don't want it, but even if you don't want it, cash will just, like, we will not have cash probably, like, and I don't know, in 20 years or something like that. Maybe sooner, probably sooner. How do you think about that uphill battle in cash? And do you agree that it will just go away?
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go away. I think they're gonna get more and more. They're gonna try to. I'm really glad that you brought this up. So the Bank Secrecy Act passed in I think it was like 1970, right? 1971. I might be correct there. Secrecy Act.
Yeah, 1970.
Yeah, 1970. Okay. So when that act passed, it essentially made it so that every $10,000 transaction had to be reported to the government. So if you were making a transaction of $10,000 or more, you had to report it. The bank itself had to report it to the US government. Now, what's really interesting about that is that if you adjust for inflation, that $10,000 is worth $80,000 in 1970. 80,000, right? So you're at the time, think about it. You're like, 80,000, like that sounds reasonable. Like it's nothing. So, but they never changed it. They never changed that effing number, right? So now it's down to 10,000, which is not the same as 10,000 in 1970. And then during this never ended up getting passed, but they tried. During the so-called Inflation Reduction Act during the Biden administration, they tried to put in a provision where every $600 transaction had to be reported. Mind you, these are the same people that were losing their minds when Elon Musk was going in there and basically saying, hey, what's all this stuff happening with, this USAID stuff? This makes no sense. Like we're paying Social Security to someone who's 300 years old. Like what the F? And they're forming riots and they were freaking out. They were going insane. They were losing their minds. And I was like, remember thinking, I was like, okay, so wait a second. The government can audit you, but when you want to audit the government, that doesn't work.
Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here or here. Oh, maybe also here.